What's up guys, Magic Navs here, and in today's video I'm bringing to you a new Airsoft review on the KWA Mach 11 A1 gas blowback SMG slash machine pistol, and holy crap, this thing is such a beautiful piece, and it's such a nice addition for any Airsofter's gun collection. But beyond that, it actually makes for a pretty decent primary if you're looking for something really compact for CQB, or even as a really strong sidearm or secondary. And I'm going to go over some of the features and things that I find that are really good about it, and some that, you know, maybe not as great, but we'll get into that. So to start off, the gun overall is as great as it looks. Most of the stuff that is external is actually made out of polymer, so not a full metal design. There are a couple metal parts, such as the little butt stock here, and the sling swivel here, or where you would attach a tether. But most of it is plastic. But don't be fooled, because this is actually very solid, rigid plastic. You almost forget about the fact that it's plastic because it has a pretty decent weight to it. When I placed it on the scale, I was getting just under 3 pounds, 2.9 pounds to be exact. So it's got some good weight to it, and you kind of just forget about the fact that it's plastic. Now, if you really care, there are some full metal body kits that you can get for it, but honestly, I don't see the point of having to shell out money just to make it a full metal gun. So, and for the fact it just performs great, that's good enough for me. Now, couple things. Firstly, the stock. You can adjust the length of the stock just by pressing this button at the bottom here. You hold that, and then you can extend the stock a little bit till about there. If you hold it down, you can actually pull the stock off completely, so you can just ditch the stock and just go with this look, which actually looks pretty great too, actually. So there's an option for you. However, I do feel that, especially since there's not many options as far as if you're looking to carry this on you, I'm not aware of any particular holsters for this gun, so I figured the best option was just getting the sling for it, and using the stock was the perfect option. The tether, or the sling swivel right here, I mean, if you have a really long 2-point sling, it could work. Or if you just wanted to go with the look of having the tether at the front here, that'd be pretty cool, I guess. But I mean, with the way you shoot this gun, or at least with what I found works best, I just prefer putting a little key ring onto the stock, as you see here, attaching a sling and making it a 1-point sling style. Because what I will do actually is, if I just put this on, when I have this slung onto my body, I adjusted the weight enough so that I can push the gun out and kind of brace it against my body, so I can get as much stability as possible, because I want to be able to push the gun out as much as I can. That way I'm getting the most accurate sight picture possible. We'll get to the sights in a minute, but you might wonder why I don't bother with the stock. The problem with the stock is, when you have it extended like this, I mean, I'm not a small person per se, but I'm not the biggest either. But even then, having the stock tucked into your shoulder is just really weird, especially with the way this stock is designed. It kind of slips off my shoulder really easily, and if I were to try to get behind the sight, I'm really hunching my shoulders and hunching my neck just to get behind the sight and aim. And if I aim like this, this is where the sights really come to play. When I was testing this gun out and shooting at like 10 yards, trying to get trying to get shots within the size of my hand was really difficult because there's just nothing to adjust with these sights. You can't adjust the rear sight because it's just a peep sight or peephole, and then you have your front sight which just a bar. So you can't. There's nothing to adjust. So, and I was just really inaccurate with this thing, and especially given it's an open bolt system. We'll get to that in a moment too. It's just not an accurate gun. If you're trying to shoulder this, at best, if you're just trying to be cool, you can just kind of tuck it a little bit under your shoulder, or just where your armpit is, and just do one-handed shooting like this, or hip firing like this. But the only other option I see is with the sling that I have mounted onto the stock. I can kind of brace it against my body, so having it extended allows me to shoot one-handed like this, but still keep some stability somewhat by having it braced. So, but when I'm going to shoot two-handed, I'm going to push the stock inwards, and that way I can shoot this two-handed, have it somewhat bracing against my my body, and then I'm keeping that peep sight as small as possible, so that way I can maximize the accuracy for targets out 10 yards, and being able to get all my shots within the size of my hand, which, yeah. So that's one thing about this gun, is that you don't, if you're looking for accuracy, this is trying to shoot it like a normal pistol is what I found to be most ideal. It would have been nice if, you know, for the real M11, had they been able to make the stock a bit longer, that would have been nice, and not have it so that you know, I mean, I get it because it's a small gun, so you would probably just have a little bit sticking out like this, right? But they've made the compact because with the stock, or the butt stock, if you squeeze it like this, you can fold it up like so. So it'll save some more space, and then you just reverse that if you want it down. This just, obviously, this is more of a concealing kind of a gun that, you know, cartels and criminals would be carrying to hide in their coat or jacket. So yeah, it is what it is, right? So yeah, the magazine. The magazine itself, it's pretty unique, I should say. It has a follower, which the channel itself is too skinny for you to actually feed BBs into the channel, which you would think that would be what you would do, especially if you're somebody who's owned Glock pistol magazines and so forth. You can just feed it down the channel, or like with a lot of Airsoft pistol magazines, but with this one you have to load it from the top. Now you could use an adapter if you want, but it's really not necessary. What you'll actually do is you'll pull the follower all the way down first, and once you pull it all the way down, you'll get it to a certain point. Oops. Yeah. You'll get it to a certain point when you're pulling it down that it'll actually lock at the bottom there. Okay? And what's nice is that the best way that I found to load it is, once I have the follower locked down there, I hold it like this so it's angled downwards, and I take my speed loader. I'll just load BBs through the hole at the top there, and then it'll feed the BBs down into the channel, and if I have gaps I can just shake it a little bit just to ensure I have no gaps whatsoever in the channel or in the magazine. Now, you can hold up to 51 BBs in the magazine, but as stated in the manual, you'll want to leave at least one space just so that the follower is able to release easier. So what's going to happen is, I mean, you could technically get away with loading 51 and just kind of shimmying the follower so that it pries loose from the little edge that holds it in place, but 50 is already good enough, and it's a nice round number, just like how it is for my my Glock 18C magazine. So once you've loaded the magazines and there's like one space left for a BB that you could push in there, you'll know you've already hit 50. So from here, all you'll do is you'll just push the follower down into the magazine. And I'll try to do this carefully, slowly, just so I don't make it fling upwards. Okay. You want to be careful, as they say in the manual. You don't want to let it fling upward hard on an empty magazine, because that might damage your follower and feed lip. Even though the feed lip is metal, from what it appears, or just really strong pot metal for what it might be, but just precaution, right? So just make sure you're not letting it fling upwards on an empty magazine. So, but yeah, you'll have your 50 rounds loaded, and then you'll charge your gas right at the bottom here, just like you would for most pistol magazines. Now, given this is an extended 50 round magazine, just like with my Glock 18C mags, I would say charge it for about 9 to 10 seconds of gas, and you should be good to go. When you're loading it, loads just like most pistols. Just push it straight up, and it locks into place, and you're good to go. The mag release is ambidextrous. It's actually on the back here. So I believe the Makarov pistol has something just like this. So when you're taking mags out, you'll just grab the mag at the same time your thumb will just come at the back here, pull this down, pull the switch down, and you can rip your magazine out and do a reload. It is possible, if you have a couple extra magazines, which I do, is you can adjust your grip a little bit so you can do a tactical reload for this gun, which is pretty nice. You know, you won't have to, you won't necessarily need a dump pouch or an extra mag pouch if you choose not to run one. So that's kind of nice. One thing to note, since we are talking about the magazine, is that the Mac 11, just like in the real gun, is an open bolt gun. So you actually have to cock the bolt back first before putting the magazine in. Now, technically, you still can put the magazine in with the bolt closed and then just rack the first round. However, especially, at least in the case of the KWA Mac 11, they stress that you want to cock the bolt first, because putting the magazine with the bolt closed can cause damage to your internals. They didn't specify exactly. I think it's just for safer measure that when you're doing a reload, before you insert the new magazine, or a new magazine for the first time, just cock the bolt back open and then commence your reload, and then you're ready to go again. In some ways, it does kind of feel a bit faster that you would cock the bolt first and then just do reload, and you're not having to rack the slide like you would for a normal pistol. So yeah, and what's kind of nice is that with the open bolt system is you know, you won't necessarily like, you can obviously look at the front channel of your magazine to see how many shots you have left, but even better is you can also check just by looking at the side of your gun, looking through the ejection port. You can see if there's a round in the chamber, or if you're completely empty, right? So you can always, when you're when there's a lull in the gunfight, you can always tilt the gun sideways to see if you're empty, so that way you don't get that dreaded click, right? And you'll see on a empty magazine, it'll just kind of go in this half position here, and you know for a fact that you're empty, so you'll have to commence a mag change. The bolt itself at the top here, it's not a full travel bolt. As you see, it only goes about halfway, but no matter, it does what it needs to do. And given it's an airsoft gun, it's really easy to pull the bolt back. I can literally just use my first finger, pull it back, and there's no effort to it at all, really. So whatever you're doing, I mean, there's just 100 ways you could probably rack the bolt. There's no need for like a lot of grip on it, which is pretty nice. So I don't have to worry too much about that. The hop up, I should mention, since we're now onto the bolt itself is actually inside of the chamber here. You will get this special little tool here, and you will actually, when you look inside the barrel, there will be some teeth that the teeth on this actually latch on. So you'll insert this through the ejection port, and if you want to decrease hop, you'll turn the key clockwise to rotate the little I guess dial inside of there. So turning it clockwise decreases hop, and turning it counterclockwise increases hop. Now I must say, for mine, I have my hop up all the way down, and even then I am over hopping like BBs with 0.2s, 0.25s. I found the best option for me was using 0.3s. Literally just the same ones that I'm using for my Tokyo Marui Sega 12. So kind of works out nice, and especially because I'm looking to get a 3D printed muzzle adapter for this gun, so I can attach an Ace Tech tracer unit, the blaster one to be exact, but we'll get to that later in a bit. So yeah, with this you might have to consider getting heavier BBs, because with 0.2s, at least with mine, it just doesn't seem to work with 0.2s. So, or it's not ideal to use 0.2s, because after a certain distance, it's just going to skyrocket. So try 0.30s first. Your safety is only on the right side here, which is this little switch. There's a safe, and then there's fire. I am not a big fan of this safety, just because it is very close to the trigger, too close to my comfort, for my comfort. To a degree, if you've kind of broken the gun in a little bit, you can kind of use your first finger. So all the way forward is fire, and if you kind of take your first finger, you can kind of pull it back and all the way once it's in safe mode, right? Or put it in safe. Now, as you'll notice, I have the bolt closed right now, so I can't pull the bolt now, because now it's in safe. If I put it in fire now, and I just use my first finger to push it forward, I can now cock the bolt again. Okay. Now, let me just do that again. So, if I'm doing this with my trigger finger, I'm pulling this back, my finger is in the trigger guard, and I just don't really feel the most comfortable having to use my first finger to do that. So, and I mean, if you're in a pinch, I guess, maybe if you are in a cartel and you're or a criminal organization, you're not going to really care that much, because you're just trying to complete the contract, then yeah, I guess you can do this one-handed, right? But if I'm shooting this two-handed, which is what my plan is mostly, I will just use my support hand. I'm reaching around, and then I'm using my middle finger to pull it forward to fire, and pushing it backwards for safe. It's still kind of close to the trigger guard or whatnot, but at least it's somewhat outside the trigger guard. Definitely more safer than this, right? Especially pushing it forward, it's tricky because it's at a weird angle. If the safety was actually on the side of the gun, it would have been a lot better, in my opinion, and that way, even for lefties, it would be a lot easier for them to manipulate it, because as a lefty, you're kind of doing this and then pulling it back like this with your first finger or something. So it's just not the most ideal safety, in my opinion, right? I mean, I can kind of use my middle finger too, even, but either way, you can see it's just not the most ergonomic, in my opinion. Now you look on the other side, you got your what looks like a safety. It's an M4 style safety, but this is actually your fire selector. So right now, when the arrow's pointing forward, it points to S, which, I mean, for us M4 users, that normally means safe, but this means semi-auto. You flip this around backwards, now you're in full auto. So I mean, as a righty, it's great, because if you want to switch it quickly, you can just simply do that, right? But what's kind of cool is, or kind of unique because you can also go around upwards like this. So it really doesn't matter which way you rotate it, it'll still work the same. But yeah, and so that's kind of neat. It's just, yeah, the safety is just the main gripe that I have. Sling swivel at the front, again, it's normally for a tether that you would put at the front of your Mac 11 or Mac 10 just so you could control the recoil more. Airsoft, I mean, it's not really necessary, you know, because there's practically no recoil with this gun. I'll get to that in a moment too. But you're just kind of, if you want some makeshift foregrip, it can kind of work. Otherwise, I would just maybe, if you have a long enough sling, you can make it a 2-point sling attachment, right? Muzzle adapter. Mac 11s have their own unique threading, so there are some suppressors that you can attach to the muzzle itself, but if you're like me and you want to consider attaching a tracer unit, specifically like an Ace Tech blaster tracer unit, which I do have planned to do that, you can search around some 3D printed Mac 11 muzzle adapters that will change it to a 14 millimeter CCW threading, so that way the regular tracers will be able to attach onto it. So I'll leave a link in the description if you want to, if you're thinking about that, and I'll probably make a update video on this setup as well. Now, as far as FPS goes, it's close to spring right now in Canada, but it's still fairly cold. I'm getting anywhere between 330 and 340 feet per second, which for such a small gun and short barrel, that's quite a bit. And that's, in my theory, it's because since this is an open bolt, most of the gas is going into the BB, as opposed to going into the blowback housing like most gas blowback pistols would be, right? Because with normal pistols, like half of the gas is going to project the BB and the rest is like causing the recoil and the slide to reciprocate. So I feel like with this, that's why you're getting a bit more power, which is nice. But at the same time, just like with the real Mac 11 and with most open bolt system guns, you kind of suffer in accuracy a little bit because there's more movement happening when that BB gets loaded into the barrel and it's being shot through the barrel at the same time. There's a lot more just movement that happens, so accuracy, I guess, just kind of suffers a little bit because of that compared to a closed bolt system. So you're not going to be as accurate as you might be with a normal pistol with this. That said, it's a Mac 11, so you're kind of just, it's kind of modeling after the real thing, even if it's kind of a bad thing. But with .30 gram BBs, like I mentioned before, which is what I found worked best with mine, this is your best option. Like .30s are your best option to make this as accurate as possible with everything stock. So you get .30s, and especially if you can get a tracer going with this, with tracers, I think you can make this as proficient as possible for yourself if you're going to think about running this for CQB as a primary or even a secondary. So those things to consider in mind. I'll quickly show you the recoil and how it shoots. So got gas in here, but no BBs. So okay, so bolts lock back, and I'll just show you a bit of the recoil here. As you can see, because of the size of the gun and just because the bolt's going forward, you feel the impulse, but it's different because all the force is going forward, so it's kind of an opposite effect, right? It's not like going into you like most guns would. It's going forward, so right. Kind of weird, but it also kind of cool at the same time. It kind of tends to drive your gun a little bit forward, so that is something to kind of be aware about. It might drive your shots a little low. in some cases, but then again, because the open pull, sometimes your shots will just go wayward, like skyrocket for random reasons. If I go full auto, let's see how fast this thing is. Jeez. I think that might even be faster than my Glock 18C. I'm not 100% sure, but it's given the different system, I think it's competing with against my Glock 18C, which has a high rate of fire, but yeah, I think my Glock 18C has some competition now with this thing. I'll even show you the trigger here. So if I cock it back, we have about 1 millimeter of play before I feel the wall here, and I'm say that's about 3 pounds. Yeah, so it's about a 3-pound trigger. Reset. I'd say it's about 3 millimeters of reset. Yeah. So it's, I mean, not a competition trigger, but even on semi-auto you can get some pretty fast shots, even whether you're doing this two-handed or one-handed, right? And then if we try full auto now, barely even 1 millimeter of play. There might be, let's see, there might be a little bit more poundage on this trigger. Okay, yeah, it's pretty much the same. 3 pounds on full auto, and obviously no reset because we're on full auto. So overall, guys, I think this is a really nice collection piece. But on top of that, it actually performs pretty well from what I've tested and have experienced so far. You're definitely, it's not going to be, I guess, precision. It's not going to be a precision gun that you're going to be shooting at like guys beyond 30 yards. I mean, granted, you can get some decent range for such a small gun, but you also have to remember that, you know, you will have an advantage for CQB. You're not going to have as much of an advantage once the distance starts getting bigger, or longer. Sorry. So those are things to keep in mind. But if you can look past those, this thing is such a nice compact gun. I think it's great for somebody that wants something really small and compact. And this was only 300 Canadian, which, I mean, if you're comparing that to US dollars, this is a pretty affordable SMG. Much cheaper than getting an MP7 or whatnot, or building an MP5 up, because really with this, you don't have a lot of options to build. I mean, you can if you really want to, but if you want to keep things simple, you can make this your very just simple gun, like just like ready to go. You know, just add a little tracer on there, and then you're ready to dominate some CQB. But yeah, those are my overall thoughts on this. I think it's a really great collection piece. I definitely can't wait to tweak this out and, you know, possibly get some gameplays with this in the future. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in my future videos. And until next time, peace out, guys.